Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beer. The feature race on a big afternoon of racing at Laurel on Saturday is the 10th, and it's the Grade 3 Frank J. DeFrancis Memorial Dash. It's a race that you can bet with a new DRF Bets account. Sign up, receive a 300% deposit match at bets.drf.com. Here's the field for the DeFrancis Dash, and it's a solid field of sprinters going 6 furlongs. $250,000 is the purse. And Mike, the morning line favorite, the number 1 Switzerland, really looked good, switching from Chad Brown to Steve Asmussen. This horse was known as an underachiever when he was with Chad. Asmussen turned around Switzerland's form completely on almost immediately, winning 3 consecutive races. This horse got bet down to 3-1 in the Alfred G. Vanderbilt, and he just didn't fire despite racing over a wet track that you would think he would love.
Yeah, he does like a wet track, that's for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, he was never beating Imperial Hint anyway, but he was still disappointing in that race. I mean, he basically got clear on the lead into the turn there, and then when they came to challenge him, it never looked like he was going to win. I will say that July 28th, it's a little ambiguous, but that might have been a day at Saratoga where he didn't want to be on the inside, and he was right on the rail, but still, it was a disappointing performance for a horse who's overall, he's got more disappointing performances than he does horse races that aren't disappointing. I know Asmussen got him a little bit better. I still don't trust this horse. He's way the horse to beat, though.
That being said, though, he is probably going to get an easier pace scenario than he did in the Vanderbilt, and Timeform US is going to have him on the lead, and there's not going to be an Imperial Hint chasing him this time around. So if Switzerland does get loose at about the 3/8 pole, we might see a repeat of that Grade 3 Maryland Sprint, his breakout performance with a 102 Beyer speed figure. Coming from the back of the pack in the Timeform US pace projectors, one of my favorites. It's Sweet on the Ladies. Sweet on the Ladies is a horse that doesn't win very often. He actually hasn't won a race since June of 2017, but boy, he'd be fun to own. He runs to the level of his competition. It doesn't matter whether it's an optional claim or it doesn't matter whether it's a Grade 1 stakes race. He's going to fire every time. Second in the Gulfstream Sprint at 95-1. Third in the Smile Sprint, placed second, 91-1. Third in the Vanderbilt, finishing ahead of Switzerland, 35-1. You would think he drops into the Benny the Bull. Here's the spot. He finished 4th again. He's the epitome of a nibbler. He needs an electric pace.
Yeah, he's probably not going to get it. There's not a ton of speed in this race. He's just one of those horses who, you know, if you're playing this race straight up, you want to use him underneath.
We have to handicap the Timeform US pace projector, and while Switzerland is fast, I find it hard to believe that the number 7, the Man, a winner of 10 of 15 lifetime starts, isn't at least going to try to hustle out of there and get a nice forward spot chasing or even pressing in second. This horse was trained by Bob Baffert in Southern California, still owned by his wife Jill, and he's just found himself for John's service running in the Mid-Atlantic area. Last time out, I thought it was a decent trip, a decent pace scenario, weaker horses, but he continues to win.
Yeah, I mean, he won his first 6 starts for service, and was he 9 for 11 since they took him over? So, I mean, all he does is win, but he really only wins in weaker races than this. In those 2 losses, you know, Always Sunshine, that race 3 starts back, he was just no match for that horse in that race. Always Sunshine's back in here. Switzerland's probably even better than that horse. This is a tough spot for this horse.
Lewisfield and Lockheed are true horse for courses. Combined at Laurel, they boast a record of 10-4-14, and they were noses apart in the Polynesian last time out. Lewisfield might have more natural gas than Lockheed, but he's also shown the ability to sit from just off of the pace. I'm just not sure whether he's fast enough. He ran some big races in February and March, which made me think maybe he could be a horse in races like the Maryland Sprint and Belmont Sprint, and he just hasn't improved.
Yeah, he really hasn't. I mean, he was no match. So that was a sloppy track, though, on Preakness Day. So I don't want to be too hard on for that race, but he was no match for Switzerland that day. I thought he came back and ran a respectable race at Monmouth after that. That was a pretty good performance for him, but it does feel like races like this are a little too tough for him right now. I mean, he's really got to run the race of his life to win this.
And Lockheed hasn't earned a Beyer speed figure of higher than 87 in over a year and a half now, so it's hard to imagine if he runs his usual race recently that he's going to get this done, but I do like that he's adaptable from a pace standpoint.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I feel like, you know, he was noses apart with Lewisfield last time, so it's not necessarily that easy to separate them, although I think the wet track probably played in this horse's favor a little bit more. I just sort of felt like Lewisfield might be a better horse than him.
Mr. Crow exploded last year for Todd Pletcher to win 2 races at Saratoga by a combined 17 3/4 lengths with Beyers of 109 and 104, and he hasn't come back to that form in any any of his races since. I'm interested in your thoughts in his most recent race, the Tail of the Cat, where he was favored in that restricted event at Saratoga. Jose Ortiz had him in behind the lead turning into the stretch. The rail opened up, and I'm not sure whether Jose didn't think there was a hole for Mr. Crow or Mr. Crow didn't want to go through the hole, but the next thing you know, Mr. Crow was just sort of shuffled back, and I didn't think was really aggressively ridden.
He wasn't. It looked to me, I think the kind view of it anyway is just that, you know, Silver Ride, those who finished third, was right next to him, and they were both sort of trying to come up the inside. It looked like maybe Mr. Crow just got a little intimidated by that horse being right next to him. He still didn't run well in that race, though. I mean, I don't know, Dan. I don't really want to give him too big an excuse for that race because I never felt like he was going to get there anyway. He's just a horse who, you know, for wherever those two races at Saratoga came from last year, he hasn't come close to those, and he hasn't even been as good for this trainer as he was for Pletcher last year.
Colonel Sharp's a solid horse for Hugh McMahon, a winner last time out, going a two-turn sprint at Timonium. There are some class concerns. He seems more of a listed type, although you could make the argument this isn't the strongest of Francis Dash.
It's not the strongest of Francis Dash. He is in good form this year. I mean, all of the races he's run so far this year are better than what he had been running prior to that, but he's got to improve again.
Arthur's Hope won his North American debut. He caught a muddy track, the kind of surface that he was used to in his native Panama. He's 9 for 12 lifetime on wet surfaces. Some could argue he's underperformed in his last 3 races, but he just hasn't run fast in this country.
Yeah, I mean, they probably would have been wise to leave him. He's a New York bred. Leave him in New York and run in those races.
Let's take a look at our top pick for the Grade 3 Frank J. DeFrancis Memorial Dash. It's going to be the horse that took down Mr. Crow last time out in the Tail of the Cat Stakes, and a horse who, in 3 out of his last 4 races, has just simply run fast enough to win. Yeah. A 96 Spire in the Run Happy at Belmont, a 98 when winning the Hockessin, defeating the Man, and then last time out in the Tail of the Cat where, you know, he was up close to the pace, he attacked wide on the turn, and he just running away from that field late.
Yeah, I mean, he ran well in that race last time. I mean, I'm with you. I think he's come back in good form. There was a long layoff there from last July till he got back to the race. I think he's come back in good form as a 6-year-old. You know, I thought he ran well this time. I didn't love the Tail of the Cat overall as a race, and it felt like My Boy Tate, who was off the layoff there, that wasn't his best race, and then he came back the other day at Belmont and didn't run well again. So that race maybe has lost a little of its luster, but to me, he's clearly the best alternative to Switzerland.
We're going to both go with Always Sunshine and DeFrancis. Mike's going 5, 1, 8, and 2. I'm going to go 5, 7, and 6. Again, it's a race and it's a card that you can bet with a DRF Bets account. We kick off a 50-cent pick 4 in the DeFrancis. 300% deposit match is yours when you sign up at bets.drf.com. An approximate post time for the Grade 3 DeFrancis Dash, 5 o'clock Eastern. Good luck.